Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kubeflow 1.7 presentation. I am Dominik Fleischmann. I am the release team manager for this Kubeflow 1.7 release. And today we're going to talk a bit about what has happened in this release. And I will give the stage to multiple leaders in our community who have been working on this release. Next slide, please. First of all, let's cover the agenda, what we're going to cover today. I'm going to talk a bit about the highlights of this release. Then I'm going to talk about how we usually go forward with these, and what the process is, how the community works. Then I'll allow other people to talk about specific features and more details of each working group and component. And finally, we'll also give some more details of how you can actually join the community and contribute to the future Kubeflow releases. Next slide, please. So regarding highlights, we've made a big effort, and our main goal has always been to be the biggest MLOps platform with Kubernetes native operations. One of the key features for this release has been the enhanced UI. We have some exciting features around Kata tuning API. We have some new training frameworks. So there's multiple interesting new features that we have. We have a lot of new commits. This has been a very long development cycle of about 6 months. And also in the community itself, there has been a lot of developments that are interesting. We have now a new security team, which Amber will talk a bit more about. And we're also continuing our work around the application for the CNCF incubation, which is exciting stuff. And we're looking forward to continue that effort. Next slide, please. But first of all, let's talk a bit about why we actually do these releases. So we have multiple different components in Kubeflow. They have different versioning, and they release sometimes at different times. But we believe that having one consistent release across the whole community allows users to have a better picture of what should they use, which versions work well with each other, and what are the guarantees of each version. So we try as a community to give a complete release every 2 or 3 times a year to make sure that the users get a nice experience that is consistent and where every component works well together. This is achieved through the release team, which I've had the pleasure to be the manager of for this release. It is composed by multiple volunteers. And basically our effort is around coordinating between working groups, distributions, and users to make sure the release is successful and that everyone is aligned on the same page and the same objectives. And we have a regular release team meetings every week. We have our own channel in the Slack, and I would encourage anyone who wants to contribute to those in the future to just look at those links and join. Next slide, please. One of the most important contributors for our community are distributions. They actually do the work to make this a commercial product. And with this release, again, we had the pleasure of seeing multiple distributions that were available on release date and also had 1.7 out. I want to shout them out specifically because it's always appreciated. They've helped a lot with testing. But also we have more distributions. We have over 11 distributions, and a lot of them have also been working actively during the release process, and they will support 1.7 very soon. So stay tuned for that. Go to the Installing Kubeflow page where you can see all the distributions, and there we will also update the moment that the other distributions also start supporting 1.7. Next slide, please. And Kubeflow is a very big project, and we have multiple dependencies that we have to operate in. This release, we are very proud to announce that we are actually able to support multiple Kubernetes versions for the first time. So for this release, we are comfortable with people using both 125 and 124 on Kubernetes. And that means that we also have to update multiple other dependencies like Istio, which now is on 1.16, or Knative, which is on 1.8.1. Another very exciting update is Customize. We have been finally able to get rid of Customize 3.2, and now we are on the latest version of Customize, Customize 5, and that is very exciting, and we're looking forward for people to try it out. Next slide, please. As mentioned before, each working group has different versioning, and we are a community of different smaller communities, and we want to shout them out all here. These are the specific versions for each working group, and they also have clear change logs for each release, and they also have their own roadmaps. So I would encourage anyone who is interested in more specific working groups, what they're doing, to go to those links and join those communities because they are doing an excellent job. And now I'm going to hand it over to John, who's going to talk about training operator.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to talk about the training operator release 1.6. So among the new features, it includes HPA support for PyTorch jobs, where user can add any autoscaler metric like CPU or memory, etc., which will automatically scale the workers for the training job. So currently, the PyTorch job supports Elastic training, and in this release, we have added HPA support as well. The other feature which we have added is the flexibility of schedulers for ML training jobs. So till now, we were just using Volcano. Now the interfaces are made generic in such a way that it can support various schedulers like the Kubernetes co-scheduling plugin or the default Volcano, or user can bring in any custom scheduler. The other feature, particularly from SDK point of view, is the unified training client, which supports all the framework that is currently supported in training operator. We have a new functional train API in SDK, which makes it easy for users to work with a training operator to run various distributed training jobs without explicitly creating container images. So this is our first step to have a data scientist friendly API for the training operator. And we have added support for Paddle, which is a very popular framework. And now the training operator supports 6 different training frameworks. And regarding the various enhancements, we have added support for the Kubernetes 1.25, and the current image supports multi-platform, which makes it easy to get deployed in any user environment. Over to Andre.
Thank you, Jonah. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to speak today about new release of Katib. It's specifically like 0.50 release, and for us, it was one of the largest release. We have over 130 commits during this time. And I'm super excited to share like the new updates specifically for Katib UI, because we've done like significant amount of contributions to make a lot of refactoring there and improve the visibility for the data scientists. So specifically, one of the key pointers there, like the data scientists, they want to see the logs of the trials, and they want to see the better results of their like metrics. So all this is now available in the UI. So data scientists, they don't need to learn about kubectl, Kubernetes, or any other like techniques to get information about their hyperparameter tuning experiments. We continue like evaluating our UI to support more features there. So we're like looking forward to what we can achieve there. So for SDK changes, we also have done like a lot of contributions. Similar to training operators, we try to hide the complexity of Kubernetes with the new Tune API, which allows you to actually run hyperparameter tuning experiment without knowing anything about Docker images, Kubernetes, or other like complex infrastructure. Also, you can now just get the trial metrics in your notebook or just a simple Python experience using the SDK. And I also I want to mention a couple of like breaking changes that we have. So first of all, we're changing our resume policy to default, which allows you to save the compute resources instead of using the long-running resume policies. Also, we kind of like removing the chocolate suggestion service for Grid, and we just currently using other suggestion services. Please feel free to check the links that we leave in this slide. Also, like we finally like remove the request number from gRPC APIs, and we enable authorization for Katib UI. So basically, which means like you have to update your Katib UI deployment manifest to use in the 1.7 Kubeflow release. And also like because we've done like significant changes on SDK, all of the changes cannot be backward compatible. So we strongly suggest you to take a look at new SDK changes and just use a new version of the SDK. Also, like I want to mention, we also supporting Postgres and Katib, and we currently narrowing down the RBAC rules to make sure we don't like enforce like additional policies which is not required for our controller. With that, I'm going to pass it to Kubernetes, which speak about notebooks. Thank you.
Thanks, Andre. So this was also an exciting release for notebooks, the web apps, and a couple of the controllers that we have in the Kubeflow org. Specifically, we focused, just like with Katib as well, in these web apps to actually improve the user story around how users can interact with the objects. So starting off with this, some of the initial changes we've done is we've actually extended both the central dashboard and the underlying web apps, most of them actually, to be able to allow users to view objects from all of their namespaces. At the same time, this without some filtering and sorting support, this feature would not be fully useful, since there would be a lot of instances to observe. So we've also implemented sorting and filtering functionality in the web apps. And following up on the changes on the web apps, we've also done a lot of changes on and refactoring on the page that allows users to create new notebooks to try and make it more simplistic and focus more on the details that people would want to use and edit out of the box, but still they're able to configure all of the other aspects if they want to. And also another huge change is that we've now added dedicated details pages for our web apps. This means that users can now actually go and view and specific details for its notebook or its volumes, and these pages are actually linked to each other. So the whole platform gets a better UX where people can actually navigate more and see information about their workloads that run on Kubeflow. And with that, I'm going to actually move to another component that got a lot of love in this release, and which is the pod defaults, which we're using to actually customize and modify the workloads that we're launching. So in this release, we actually have pod defaults that allows users to have configurations for both sidecars, init containers, and image pool secrets. So our whole story around how people can use custom images with Kubeflow, sidecars for more advanced workloads, or pooling for private registries is hugely improved. And with some great help from contributors, we also extended our whole TensorBoard stack, which means both from the web app all the way to the CRDs, where now people can actually use pod defaults for TensorBoards. So people, for example, could define credentials for S3 and reuse them for both notebooks and TensorBoards. And these are the most exciting features that, at least in my mind, for notebooks. And with that, let me also do a summary for manifests, although Dominic has spoiled some of the niceness in this release. One thing that we're really happy about is the fact that we've done a huge job, and credits to Anna for this as well, for cleaning up the contrib components that we have. So in this release, we actually aim at having some structure on any add-on and contrib components that are included with Kubeflow. So expect that the components that make it will have a clear README with a clear list of examples and instructions on how to use them and how to test them. So the experience there would be way better than the previous releases. And one of the best upgrades that we did for Manifest is, as Dominic mentioned, we actually upgraded to Customize 5. This was something that we did relative the last minute of the release, although we're confident that and tested enough that we believe we should go to Customize 5. There are still some edges we need to smoothen, like you might see some warnings, but things are under control and there's nothing unexpected we've encountered until now. And actually, we're going to iron out all of these details in the next release. And of course, we did some updates on the components like EST on 1.16, updated Knative, insert manager to newer versions to also accommodate the Kubernetes versions. So that's most of the changes with manifests. And for that, let me pass the baton to Ablai to speak about the Kubeflow pipelines.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ablai. I'm a member of the pipelines working group. In Kubeflow 1.7, users are now able to use pipelines as components. That simply means that users can use their old pipeline definitions as any one-step component in their new pipelines. In addition to that, users will be able to use subdoc visualization that allows users to dive deep into their pipelines and inspect their components. Finally, we added several bug fixes and vulnerability fixes. So if anyone had previously experienced any issues with bugs or vulnerabilities, check out the new Kubeflow 1.7. With that, I'm going to pass it to the next presenter. Tommy?
Hi, here's Tommy. I'm going to present the KP Tecton projects. So in the KP Tecton projects, we're going to use 1.5.1 versions for the Kubeflow 1.7 release. In this release, we're going to support the Tecton 0.41. And for those who are using Red Hat OpenShift, it's going to be the latest Red Hat OpenShift Pipeline 1.9 versions. And with this release, we're also going to support Kubernetes 1.25. And for this release, we are mostly focusing on supporting KP v2 features on top of Tectons. So we added like some of the extension feature on Tectons, such as loop counters, pipeline outputs, and also having KP v2 driver support using the extension package for Tecton custom tasks. And with all the support we want from the IBM Power team, we also enhance our current CSI storage for artifact passing on Tecton to support multi-arc CPU deployment as well. And as a lot of you probably might not notice, but like Tecton, mainly was designed on security focus. So when we actually run Tecton productions, we see a lot of optimization that is not well done when we kind of do large scale machine learning training. So we actually enhanced the extension package for Tecton on loop features such as parallel for and recursion loops to make it much efficient in terms of memory space and improve the scalability with this. And also on top of the Tecton core controller, we also see like core controller itself have issue on graph traversal and handling DAG. So we actually contribute to the core Tecton projects to improve the graph traversals, webhook validations, and the status update performance to make sure like KP that runs on top of Tectons can also able to scale to thousands of nodes and edges. And with all this feature, we also able to preview the KP v2 alpha files with Tecton backend integration. So feel free to try out. You want to run KP v2 on top of OpenShift. Thanks.
Thanks, Tommy. Since the last Kubeflow release, so in Kubeflow 1.7, we have a integrated case of 0.10 release. Since 1.6 included 0.8, so this release we are incorporate all change from 0.9 as well. So in these two releases, we have introduced like an inference graph, and we fully integrated the model mesh using the inference service API. And we enabled provide more K-serve network options besides Istio. And we have been like improving the K-serve telemetry observability stack, and we increased the support coverage for the open inference protocol, which are called like the v2 protocol K-serve currently supported. And so for this is we just provide a list of highlights here. Like for more details, you can check the K-serve 0.10 and 0.9 release block. So for the highlights, and the first item is the info. We have since 0.9, we have introduced the inference graph, which is as alpha feature to support the multi-stage inference pipelines, ensembling, A/B testing, and conditional branch use case. So you can follow up the tutorial to see how you can like create an inference graph like a CR to submit a pipeline declaratively with multiple steps. And the next one is case of model mesh. So we have now fully model mesh is now like fully compatible with the inference service API. So you can use the same inference service API to submit a service both for like K-serve and model mesh. So model mesh, you can use model mesh to, if you want to share the container resource for multiple models, and the model mesh in 0.10, it also adds support like for the same cluster serving runtime support we have been providing in the K-serve as well, and added the additional like touch serving runtime. So so this really helps us like unify the APIs for both like K-serve and model mesh. So depending on your case, whether you want to deploy multi-model deploy mode or using K-serve primarily for like a single model serving, if your model is like a large. So next item is the case of network options. So Istio is now optional for both serverless and raw Kubernetes deployment mode. So you can use any other network options supported by Knative for the serverless mode. And for raw deployment, you can bring in your own ingress options, which supports the Kubernetes ingress API resources. And if you want to fully leverage the full service capability from Istio, so we wrote a tutorial how you can set up the service mesh mode to secure inference service and enable the traffic policies. Another effort we have been focusing on in 0.10 is the improving the K-serve telemetry for all the serving runtime supported in K-serve. So we have instrumented additional latency metrics in case of Python SDK, such as like we have exposed the individual metrics for pre-processing, predict, and post-processing. And we are also able to collect all the metrics like exposed from inference model servers such as Triton, TorchServe, or any other TensorFlow, TF serving, ML server. So we are able to aggregate all the metrics exposed from like a kubeproxy as well as like K-serve containers. So you have a full observability for the inference service. So you can follow the Prometheus metrics setup guideline to how to enable the metric scraping and the aggregations. Last but not the least is the open inference protocol support. We have significantly increased the support coverage. We have for example, the AMD inference server as well as like OpenVINO also implement the K-serve the V2 inference protocol. So as they have been like increasing adoptions, so we have proposed to rename the V2 inference protocol to Open Inference Protocol. So we have been discussing with all the stakeholders. So this is upcoming. In the 0.10 release, we also added the V2 Open Inference Protocol support for the K-serve custom runtime as well. So you can enable both the REST and gRPC for both custom transformer and predictors. So the Open Inference Protocol support is pretty much complete, other than the TorchServe gRPC support, which is upcoming in 0.11. So that covers all the support, like in case for Open Inference Protocol for all the serving runtime we support. So you can see the details examples for custom transformer predictor, how you can enable the Open Inference Protocol for your deployment. Yeah, I'll pass to the next person.
Thanks, Dan. My name is Sean. I'm a member of the BentoML team. We at BentoML are thrilled to partner with the Kubeflow team in this release. For those of you who are not already familiar with BentoML, it is an open source platform designed to help you build, ship, and scale AI applications. We believe that AI will be part of a very fundamental part of all applications moving forward, built with models either trained by yourself or pre-trained, accessible from Model Hub or behind an API. So with this integration, we focus specifically on shipping and scaling AI applications with model trained on Kubeflow. With Kubeflow 1.7, BentoML will feature cloud-native components and CRDs that can be easily installed as a part of Kubeflow manifest. These cloud-native components and CRDs, when combined with BentoML framework, can help you develop models trained on Kubeflow into AI applications, and in turn deploy them as distributed microservices on the Kubernetes cluster, with each model running on the most optimal hardware and scale independently based on usage. We invite you to learn more about this exciting new integration by checking out the Kubeflow integration documentation on BentoML, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. With that, I'll hand it over to Josh to talk about Ray and MLflow.
Thanks, Sean, and thanks for the BentoML team. In the Kubeflow Summit in October, we talked about a strategy of growing the community through partnership projects And we had 3 identified. Bento did a stellar job. And I think that their commitment to working and documenting really shows up into user appreciation. As we look at the other 2 projects that we had identified, one was Ray, and we have made progress in tracking that progress in the Ray Kubeflow integration. And you can see that in the pull request that's documented there. I have a lot of enthusiasm and heard a lot of positive things from users about integrating Kubeflow with Ray. And so I look forward to that project maturing over the next few quarters. Additionally, we had a project started to integrate Kubeflow with MLflow. We had 2 paths kind of identified there. One of those, the first path, was with the concurrent project, which was pretty well defined, but the workflow development stopped or stalled. And so I think the concurrent project is on hold. There is a possibility that'll be resurrected in the summertime. But in the meantime, the non-concurrent native integration of Kubeflow with MLflow has progressed with some architectural work, definition being done, and some PRs being contributed. For those of you that are watching that project, please feel free to participate on those PRs and come to the community meetings and let us know your need for that integration. I think this is a great effort by the partnerships teams. And with that, I'm going to hand off and get an update from the security team. Amber, would you like to give us an update on the security team's efforts?
Sure would. I'm pretty excited about this, as this is the first time in the Kubeflow project that we're having a formalized security team. Pretty exciting considering all the downstream projects that have been pushing changes upstream over the years. So during this release, we organized the team. The directory needs a little bit more updates, but it's going to get merged hopefully this week into Kubeflow, and that we have bi-weekly meetings. We also have produced the list of images that we'll test. So if you're interested in those, please jump into that security Slack channel and let us know. We can get you that. We've also produced a list of CVEs for the first time, and those are available upon request. And we're working on a security document and policy that we will put into play this month and test that policy out and iterate on it as necessary. So we, again, would love to have you, if you're interested in this, have you join those meetings and get involved in the security team. So we're growing up, I guess, as you want to say, with this release in regards to security across Kubeflow. And next up, we have outreach and usability. So we're going to have a survey that's coming out in April. We've already had groups stand up about the usability guidelines to improve the formatting and functionality. And also, as Josh mentioned, that we talked about during Kubeflow Summit last year, about how do we grow the community. One of those ways was with partnerships, which he just talked about, with those adjacent technologies. We're also looking at ways to grow the community, sustain the community, and maintain the community. So if you're interested in helping grow Kubeflow as a project, a product, or the community, let us know. Jump in the community outreach channel, and we'll get in touch with you and give you some feedback on how you can help with that too. And with that, Josh, platform enhancements, back to you.
Yeah, so I'm excited about the work that was done in the platform enhancements because although it was driven by dedicated members from the IBM team and was really initially designed around including the IBM Power functionality. And of course, for those of you that are aware of Power, it has an important architectural advantage for many of their users, and it represents a substantial user base which we in the community want to make sure that user base is able to use Kubeflow most effectively on that architecture. The nice thing that the IBM team working with, I believe, Components in the manifest and Kubeflow really build a foundation that allows that architecture to be extended to other processor types as well. So I see this as being one of those things where the IBM team extended even further to give us a good foundation to grow into other environments. And that's a really nice segue into why the Kubeflow community continues to grow. And I think that many people are joining Kubeflow via the Slack and attending the Kubeflow meetings. Our attendance is up, and participation is bringing new concepts, new ideas, and quite frankly, new contributors. As we've seen the community continue to evolve, the next set of folks that are coming in to lead the community, I think are going to have a very important hand in how the community grows as we join in with the CNCF. And those activities continue to move forward. And I'm very happy with our efforts of collecting all our artifacts for the upcoming due diligence around the CNCF. In addition to that, I do want to make a shout out. Our distributions are probably the Kubeflow distributions are a lot of the lifeblood of the community, and that the distributions need users to recognize the value that they provide. And in one space that they really help people getting started is with tutorials and with getting started installation guides. Kubeflow being a fairly complex, large software stack, it does help to have somebody who has been around the community a while, who's a contributor to help you in an enterprise deployment. So as you start with Kubeflow 1.7, please consider reaching out to a distribution. From all of us in the Kubeflow community, we would like to just say thank you to all the subject matter experts, to all the users, and especially to the contributors, the people that spent the time, the evenings, the nights to contribute the code, to test the code, to document the code, and the working group leads who managed this whole process and brought this successful release to fruition. Dominic, I think I speak for all of us in the community saying you did a wonderful job. You built on the shoulders of many of the people that came before you, but Anna and Kimonis in particular, I think led the way, and hopefully you had a great experience. As we close up, Dominic, do you want to give any final word on your experience or anything that you would like to say as we close this out?
Thank you, Josh. Just want to thank everyone in the community, and just want to encourage anyone who wants to start contributing, please join. We are always happy to have new contributors, and we're trying to make this a welcoming space. So please join, please help us out. And thank you, everyone. And I'm looking forward to Kubeflow 1.8.
To 1.8 and beyond. Thank you, Dominic. Thanks, everyone.